please join me in welcoming Albany County Executive Dan McCoy, Albany Deputy County Executive Michael McLaughlin, Albany County District Attorney Lee Kindlin, Albany County Sheriff Craig Apple, Albany Chairwoman of the County Legislature Joanne Cunningham, Majority Leader Dennis Feedy, Town of Guilderland Supervisor Peter Barber, Guilderland PD Chief Daniel McNally, and Dustin Reedy. Now please welcome NYSET President Melinda Person, Farnsworth Middle School's very own 8th grade student, Anika Bupati. New York State Parent Teachers Association Vice President, Roberto Rijos. New York State Police Superintendent, Stephen James. Senator Pat Fahey, and President of the New York City chapter of the NAACP, Anthony Harmon. Please silence your cell phones and welcome the 57th Governor of the great state of New York, Governor Kathy Hochul.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, we're in a school. Please silence your cell phones. Great to be here with an extraordinary list of individuals who worked so hard to get us to this day. I want to first of all recognize Melinda Person. She is the leader of our teachers, NYSET, president of NYSET, but really has used her voice as a champion for our students in making sure that they have the best outcomes in their educational experience. And we're at this place, a school she's familiar with. She can talk about her being a student here many years ago, no, just a handful of numbers years ago, and what it was like then and what brought us here today. So I want to thank her for incredible leadership. Let's give her another round of applause. I want to acknowledge Senator Pat Fahey. You'll be hearing from her shortly. Again, another fighter for this region, and I'm really pleased to see you ascend to the new title of Senator Fahey. Let's welcome her as well. Our County Executive Dan McCoy, who's always been there for us, and our Sheriff and others, Craig Apple and others, and our people from law enforcement who've joined us here today, because this is also an issue that we need law enforcement to help get over the finish line. This is really important that your voices are here, as they have been, to help explain to parents why this is for the safety of their children as well. So I thank you for being part of this. Mike Lasher, the principal of Farnsworth Middle School, has done an extraordinary job here. I want to thank him for his leadership. And you can just tell when I walk into a building, I get a good sense of the feeling of the young people here. And they're very positive and optimistic, and a principal certainly sets the tone. I want to thank you for that, as well as Dr. Marie Wiles, our superintendent of schools for the Guilderland School District. Thank you for your leadership as well. You'll also be hearing from Anika Bupati. I want to talk about her for a second. Extraordinary 8th grader who, I want to get this right, she's on the championship team of the competition for U.S. Future Cities, okay? Now, you're the defending international champions? Can I repeat that? The defending international champions are right here of the Future City competition. I'm hoping to watch a game this weekend and be closer to a national championship for my team. So these championships mean a lot to me as well. But thank you for what you're doing. And she wants to go on and be a lawyer someday. And we're talking about the great opportunities that are open when you secure that law degree. So you're absolutely on the right path. Very proud of what you're doing. You'll also be hearing from Roberto Rios, our Vice President of the Parent-Teacher Association. The Parents-Teachers Association, PTA, has been so important in validating the importance of doing this and being that connective tissue between these policies and the students and teachers and the parents that you represent. So, Roberto, I want to thank you for your work here as well. Dr. Stephen James, our superintendent of the state police, again, he'll put an exclamation point on why this is important to the law enforcement community, that we get the messages out. And so I want to acknowledge we have a very robust speaking program, but this is so important that we talk about what's behind this policy. And let's recognize the fact that all across America, a war is being waged for our children's minds. It's that profound. Kids are being besieged with addictive algorithms, toxic social media, and cell phones that just can be so manipulative that it becomes addictive like a drug. And these young people, and I've heard them, I just talked to some more, they're calling for help. They're literally calling us for help. And as the adults in the room, the policymakers, it's our job to pick up that call and then put down that phone. That's what we're talking about here today. So I'm very cognizant of how we'll be judged in the future for what we do today in our respective roles. And I believe we'll be judged harshly if we don't look at the data that is so overwhelming of the negative impact of social media and cell phones on children's developmental abilities to function as not just as kids, but ultimately as adults. And how so many times that these social media platforms have had a profoundly negative impact on our children's mental health, especially the young girls who are contemplating suicide and experiencing depression at higher rates than ever before. There's something going on here, and we can no longer turn a blind eye to it. We have to be the ones who, when history looks back, are the ones who stood up, who waged this fight and protected the future leaders of our state. And I'm so proud to be here today as we put an end to digital distractions in our classrooms. Last year, many of you know, and I was with Melinda in person many times, we crisscrossed the state. We had roundtables, listening sessions, talked to everyone involved, parents, teachers, students, principals, school board members, superintendents. But the voices that meant the most were those students. And what they told me was that they're distracted. It's hard to focus. And you cannot be the first student to put down your phone and say, I don't want to do this anymore. You would be ostracized for the rest of your life. I know that peer pressure is intense. I raise teenagers. I have a lot of teenagers in my family. I see what they're going through. And they cannot be the only one ever. But as a group, you can normalize the fact that, yes, it's okay to talk to a student in the lunch cafeteria because you're not distracted. I just talk to students now. I ask them, what has been the difference since this school had the courage to stand up and starting in September had the policy? We're willing to go into a place that very few schools have gone. And I thank again our principal and our superintendent. Those students told me that kids are talking to each other in the cafeteria and between classes. And think about that. For that to be rather an earth-shaking announcement tells you how silent it was before. And that's what I've heard from so many principals. They say, we're hearing noises in the halls again, laughter. Sometimes the kids are pushing and shoving, but you know what? They're not glued to this. And for their developmental and emotional well-being, it is so much more positive for them to have human connections and make friends that otherwise would not be their friends because their only friends live in a virtual world. That's what I heard here already just walking through the door. I want to hear that noise again in every school across the state. But kids are also missing an education. They miss what's being written on the blackboard, whatever you use these days, whiteboards. They're focusing more on memes instead of math. And they're falling behind because how could they not? Think of as adults. So you're supposed to be doing your job all day, but all day long you're on your cell phone. You're not being very productive. You're not engaging, you're not learning. It's happening at exponentially higher levels with our kids. So let's help them. And this is an individual who stepped up way before it was popular to talk about that, NYU professor Jonathan Haidt. He wrote in a book called The Anxious Generation, which I recommend to all of you. He said the never-ending stream of interruptions takes a toll on adolescents' ability to think and may leave permanent marks on their rapidly reconfiguring brains. And let's talk about it from the perspective of a teacher. Linda will share this with you. But a recent poll showed that 72% of high school teachers across the nation said that cell phones were a major distraction for their students. None of you look really old, but I know that when you were students, you didn't have to deal with this. Your teachers didn't have to compete, did they? The focus was on you as a student. And I heard from frustrated teachers who said, I used to be able to stand there and I'd try to create a connection, a bond with the students starting in September. So by the end of the year, they knew that I believed in them. I would fight for them. I was their best champion. I wanted them to have that trust, that bond that's so important between a teacher and a student. He says, I can't get that anymore. I don't have that. And it's really taken away the joy of being a teacher. One of our elected officials, assembly member, is a teacher. He says, I don't want to teach anymore. It's not what I thought I was getting into. I'm just fighting all day long, competing. It's not fair to our teachers either. They're working so hard every day, and they shouldn't have to compete with a device that was never there when they went to school or their parents went to school. So we listen to them. And the fact that 95% of teenagers have a cell phone, and there's 250 notifications on average every day, that's 250 times the cell goes off, makes that noise, distracts you, pulls your attention, you don't know what it is. Adults, we're guilty of the same, right? I'm going to leave a little lesson here for moms and dads. If you lead by your own example. Even if you have a busy job, like you're a county executive, right? Got a busy job. When the kids are around you, let them know who's most important in your life. You can get back to that call. Your kids are watching you. What do you value? What's important to you? And they need to know they're at that top of that list. And your spouses or your partners, they need to know that too. So it is a sign that I hear from my husband every once in a while. Can you just put it down? Well, we're doing the budget, we're doing state of the state, but you know what? People are important too. And a cell phone, when you're sitting there like this and they're sitting here, says that this is more important than that person. I think we're better than that. And I want us to role model that for our kids as well. And they'll get that, they'll understand. And those of you who've been listening to me on this journey for well over a year know I've said this before, so the press can count how many times I've said this. It's one of their favorite pastimes. How many times is she going to say this again? But we were not far from here, maybe 40 minutes from here to school when I first started, and we gathered in it was a library, bright young women, and one of them was describing the stress of being glued to that cell phone. She says, I have to know what they're saying about me. You know, are they mocking out what I'm wearing today? Are the girls all gathering in the restroom and I'm not being included? What's going to happen over the weekend? Am I being excluded from plans and someone else is being bullied and I need to know what's going on? And I'm like, do you guys ever think about your studies or subjects? No, there's so much going on there. And I said, why do you guys let this happen? And she said, you have to save us from ourselves. We can't be the ones to put this down. They can't be the first. And I said, I get it. I get it. This won't be easy. But as a mom, I know we have to make the tough decisions to do what's right for kids. This is ingrained in our DNA. As adults, some of us as parents, and certainly as leaders, it's our responsibility to hear the child's call for help and do something about it. And they feel so trapped in this world with their whole social existence is on social media and on their cell phone. We have to get this right. And that's why I'm so proud to propose in my budget a comprehensive new policy to make every single school, every single public school in the state of New York distraction-free. And we're going to make sure there are no smartphones, no watches, no tablets, no beeps or dings in that sacred space where children need to be learning between the bell in the morning and the bell in the afternoon. That's how we start saving these kids. That's how we start changing their academic outcomes. That's how we help make them more integrated into society and be fully functioning adults when they graduate. That's our job. Not to raise kids, but to raise adults. Help them emerge as fully functioning adults who can have social interactions. And many of these kids were paralyzed by the pandemic. And I'm proud that I was the governor who brought students back to school, who said you need to be in a classroom, you need to be learning. And I just heard from one of the students now, one of the teachers who told me, she says they're still affected by the pandemic when they were so disconnected, but they became so reliant on this for their very existence. And now that carries over all these years later. They can't break the addiction. So that's what this proposal will achieve. Freedom for these kids, freedom for parents to know that their kids are learning. You don't have to worry about them. They're going to be okay. They're not being pulled into this dark space. It's better for your own children's mental health. It's good for the teachers. It's good for the environment. And that's why we will apply this bell to bell. And I said, some places say we'll leave it up to schools. We can do that. I have about 100 schools, maybe 26 in this area that have done this. But I have hundreds and hundreds of schools that have not, because it's hard. You don't want to be on that school board, or maybe the school superintendent, or somebody's going to be mad about it. You've got enough to worry about. So if you need someone to be the heavy, it's my job, right? Let me be the person who says, I'm putting our kids first. I'm putting the mental health of our children first. And we'll let each individual school district develop how they want to store devices. I saw some opportunities in some of the class. I saw some examples, ensure compliance. We're not going to tell you what to do there. But I'll tell you this. There's another dynamic as a parent whose kids were young during Columbine. That nightmare, your worst nightmare, that something happens with a shooting on your child's campus, or they're in their school, grade school, even kindergartens, it happens. And our law enforcement is here because they have a message. They understand that real feeling, because these are parents as well. They understand that need to be connected to your child. But if there is a mass casualty event or a shooter on the grounds, the last thing you want to have is your child fumbling for their cell phone, pulling it out. Maybe they think they need to be texting their friends first or sending messages to their friends first. Maybe even videoing it, because I'm going to be the one who captures this. And guess what? That distraction can mean that they're not safe. They've lost their focus on the person in the front of the room who is trained to take care of them and get them to safety. And I didn't know that until I heard that from law enforcement, and all of a sudden I realized the bell went off, light went off in my head. I said, that's right. And if parents knew that and understood that, they wouldn't be thinking they need to have this connection all day long. And make sure that every school will have some way to reach your parents, and parents can reach you. Yes, things happen. Things happen. Of course you're going to have that access. But it doesn't have to be in your hand or in your pocket all day long. It's time to cut that cord and let our kids be kids and let them ultimately become adults. So we will have a requirement that all the schools have a way that parents can reach their kids and vice versa when it's necessary. And we want parents involved in this. This is what every school district has to do. That's what the principal here told me they did. They had meetings with parents, and the PTA meetings were so important to this. Education's everything. But also law enforcement. We need your voices to continue standing up. And law enforcement is on board with this. And they know they want to be able to focus on the safety of the children. And I'm also proud that there's advocates like the NAACP. We have Anthony Harmon, who's the president of the education sector of the NAACP for New York City. I want to thank him for joining us. Anthony has an important perspective to make sure that the application of this is not discriminatory, that some schools are not suspending kids and not letting them come back, and another school is going to say, okay, little slap on the wrist, you're okay. That's not fair. That's why this has failed in the past for others who've thought of this. Failure is not an option for us. We're going to get this right. We spent a lot of time on this, bringing together all the voices that need to be at the table, and I want to make sure that everyone pays close attention to what Mr. Harmon says as well. So I want to make sure that every child, regardless of their skin color, is treated the same when it comes to the application of this, regardless of what school you're in. So that's important to me. And we'll be releasing a report on the insights and all these listening sessions and an implementation guide. I encourage all of you to take a look at this, and we'll come back. I'm going to keep evaluating this. 1 year from now, we'll talk about this, and the year after, we'll talk about it. The year after, we'll talk about it. We're going to talk about progress being made. But if you talk to Principal Lashley right now, he's going to have an important perspective to tell you. And I'm really proud that we're going to do this, and by September, every school will have a policy in the state of New York. Clearly, we'll have exceptions if there's medical needs or for an academic reason or a child that needs this because of a disability, or there's language challenges. English is not a first. Of course, we're going to make those exceptions. This is not punitive. We're just trying to get it right. And to support purchasing and whatever support the school district need, I've already put $13.5 million in our budget to help the school districts to acquire some storage options at their own choice. But all I know is that when I hear kids in need, and I hear teachers, and I hear parents, and I hear others who need something done, I don't mind. I'll step into that fray. I will always do what I think is right. And this one, having distraction-free classrooms across the entire state of New York, joining only 8 other states that have gone this far, will show our leadership, will show how we prioritize our kids and their mental health, and our kids and their learning abilities. And that'll demonstrate our values as New Yorkers. And I'm proud of what we did there. I'm proud of what we've done on social media, teaming up with Attorney General Tish James, our Safe for All Act. First state in the nation to successfully fight off the social media companies that want to keep that death grip on your children all day long. And we said, no addictive algorithms for children under the age of 18. We're going to free them from this grasp. And we did that successfully. And now the U.S. Senate has followed the same. So change is possible. I'm here to say the winds of change have definitely shifted. The fact that we're here today announcing this to be fully effective, you can start next week if any school district wants to. This is not stopping you. Let's get started. Let's make sure that we're focused on this, and let's do this for our children. Thank you, everybody. Again, an incredible champion who is talking about this in every corner of the state and has hosted roundtables and a symposium just a few months ago and has really lent the credibility of her position to this, the leader of NYSET, Linda Person.
Thank you and good afternoon. It is great to be here in Guilderland for many reasons. I attended this middle school a few years ago, as the governor mentioned, but I'm also a proud parent of 2 middle schoolers here, and I have a few in the elementary school on their way. I'm a resident here in Guilderland, and I'm very proud to be from this district, and I'm very proud of the work that they have already done to begin to address this issue. I'm sure my kids might not feel the same way about me being here. Middle schoolers don't tend to love their moms showing up at school and talking about taking away cell phones. But this is not a lecture for me today, is truly a celebration. It's a celebration that Governor Hochul has really taken this issue and run with it. She, on the issue of mental health of our youth in this state, has been a leader like no other. On social media, which she tackled, on listening to children, the number of visits she's done to schools and the conversations she's had with school children, it's been second to none. So I really want to acknowledge you for not only for being the first mom governor, but for making this a priority, our students and our children, and especially their mental health. Now, there are many educators here in the room, and it's not news breaking to them that cell phones are a problem in our schools. When a child has a cell phone in their pocket alone, it's a distraction. As I've taught in this middle school as well, I've seen kids waiting for the bell to ring with that phone ready to go because they can't wait to get out and check. The FOMO, right? The fear of missing out on what the next thing that's going to happen is real. And my kids, I've been the worst mom ever, not allowing them to have phones. And I've heard them talk about the pressure from other students that the governor mentioned, right? The need to fit in by having a phone and access to that. What this bell-to-bell proposal that the governor is advancing does is it levels the playing field. Everybody will have their phone away so that they can pay attention and be present, not just for learning, but for the real need for that human interaction, that connection that kids need in school. Social emotional learning and the ability to talk to your peers and our teachers and the other people in the school buildings is so critically important. And this proposal will restore that. We know it works because we've seen it work. Here in Guilderland, it's new this year. We've seen it in Schoharie and Guilderland, other school districts around the area. And what I've heard from the teachers, the educators in those buildings, is that now kids are talking to each other again, as the governor mentioned. Kids are passing notes. Remember that? Passing notes, right? When I visited a school in Elmira, they talked about how loud the hallways were again. But it was joy that had returned to our school buildings instead of kids being glued to technology. We can give our students an average of 7 hours a day back of social media free time. And so when you think about that, so it's a good portion of the day. But for me, it sounds a lot like we're giving them their childhood back. This is the time of their school day when they get to be kids, when they get to be together and experience childhood. And so by doing this, we are changing the course of their childhood. It is truly groundbreaking. Now, I understand firsthand the concerns of parents, as a parent myself, and I actually had the same thoughts that the governor mentioned about safety and the number of emergencies that our schools have experienced and lockdowns, et cetera, seems to be increasing. But when I heard from law enforcement as a parent myself, I knew that the best thing for my kids was to have phones away. And so it's amazing to be a part of a coalition of principals, superintendents, we got almost the whole Guilderland School Board back there, law enforcement, legislators. It's amazing to be here together with a group of people who are putting our students and learning first. Schools are places of learning. And by putting our phones away, we can make sure that that maintains on the utmost forefront of our minds. Now, I want to just close with this. This is something that I actually heard from one of our students, Jax, who's in the back from Schoharie. She was on a panel of students talking about this, and she said, you know, people think that we're taking something away when we take these phones from kids. But I don't see it that way, she said. She said, we're giving them back their focus, their opportunity to be together, that human connection. And I think when you frame it that way, when you think about it that way, this is truly a gift that we can give this generation and future generations to come. So again, thank you, Governor Hochul, for your leadership on this. I truly believe that this law will be groundbreaking and set new standards nationwide for how we can create phone-free schools. Thank you. And I am now extremely proud to introduce our next speaker, 8th grader at Farnsworth Middle School here, Anika Bhupathi.
Good afternoon. My name is Anika Bhupathi, and I'm currently an 8th grader here at FMS. I believe cell phones are an additional and unneeded distraction for classrooms and interfere with learning. Through my experiences in my classes, there's students who use their cell phones and aren't able to engage in classroom discussions and unable to improve their academic performance. However, when cell phones were removed, students were actively engaging in conversations and opening up to their love of learning. Let's keep in mind that cell phones create opportunities for students to engage in bullying during the school day and have been linked to heightened fears of isolation and depression among students. Many of my peers have come to me about the negative effects about bullying and how it's affected them throughout the day. Students having access with phones constantly bring their addictions up, which results in students being tired during school and unable to learn. However, with phones being put away, students are able to de-escalate situations on social media, and the amount of cyberbullying is reduced. Teachers should not be expected to police cell phones in the classroom, so having the policy in place will reduce the confusion as to how students should use their cell phone during the day. Before, teachers always had to monitor to make sure students were sneaking phones. I've watched many students play games on their phones and be distracted overall. Through my experiences here at FMS, the removal of cell phones through our new policy this year has a positive change and will be changing the behavior of generations to come. Thank you, Governor Hochul, for your leadership and attention to this important issue. The next speaker will be Mr. Rojos.
Good afternoon. Students are talking to each other. Isn't that great? I love that quote, Governor. Thank you again. Thank you for having me here. My name is Robert Rios. I'm a proud parent of 3 young ladies. I'm the New York State PTA Vice President, and I'm also a resident of Yonkers. So my wife and I fully understand the concerns regarding smartphone usage in classrooms. I have, as I'm sure you have as well, how smartphones can interfere with students' focus, classroom learning, and sadly, their mental health. Our classrooms must remain places of a learning, collaboration, and cooperation where students continue to thrive, free from unnecessary distractions, in a safe and supportive environment. We thank Governor Hochul for truly listening to parents, families, educators, students, the New York State PTA, and other stakeholders in drafting this important legislation, which balances common sense limitations to support learning and socialization, yet includes important allowances and exemptions for uses of devices, all while ensuring local control and feedback in the development of their local policies in their schools. As a parent, I know many of us share one common concern: how will I stay connected to our children during the school day? Well, let me share with you that this initiative fully considers the importance of maintaining parent-child communications. That was a critical component to PTA parents and families. Schools adopting distraction-free environments will need to provide clear communication plans, whether through existing or new channels, emergency procedures, or check-ins during appropriate times. Schools will need to prioritize keeping parents informed and connected with our children if needed. We also appreciate the inclusion of the necessary allowances like times of emergency for health, safety, learning users, and certainly for our most important students with disabilities or medical needs. It is important to understand that today's report highlights the internet-enabled, device-free environment does not compromise student safety. In fact, they're intended to help craft a more mentally healthy space. Additionally, schools are encouraged to strengthen engagement with in-person activities like clubs, sports, arts, an opportunity to offer our kids exciting alternatives to screen time. We believe this initiative is a positive, proactive step for all of us. As parents, educators, and education advocates, by working together, schools, parents, and communities, we can ensure that every child has the opportunity to succeed, free from unnecessary distractions. However, we must do our part as well. That means talking to our kids about the appropriate times for cell phone use, about putting phones away, at the dinner table or when having conversations and spending time with our own children. The health and wellness, mental health of our children is of the highest priority, and we stand ready to be a partner to the measure of our mission of every child with one voice. Thank you, Governor Hochul. It is now my honor to introduce Superintendent James.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the introduction, Mr. Rios. I also would like to thank Governor Hochul for bringing us together for a common purpose. It is our students. So I know parents may feel a sense of comfort knowing that their children have cell phones at school because they can provide instant communication in an emergency. I'm a parent as well, so I can relate. But I also can tell you from experience, in emergency situations can be very stressful, it can be chaotic, and it can unfold very quickly. And all of this is a combination that many children have never endured, never experienced. And it is critically important that the students are paying attention to the direction, as was mentioned earlier, by the school staff. Those staff who are adequately trained in how to handle and address various situations. Students may instinctively reach for their phones first instead of focusing on those instructions that are being conveyed, instructions that are intended to help them get to a safe place. And they may unknowingly text or post inaccurate information to social media and cause confusion, quite possibly to parents or to emergency responders. Therefore, it's important to encourage the students to stay alert during emergencies and to follow instructions from those trained school staff and emergency responders without being distracted by the phones. So keep in mind, you see other law enforcement personnel here, troopers as well as law enforcement officers in the area and the state, they work with the school districts on safety plans. In the state police, we certainly will provide any additional support that is needed in the districts to fine-tune those plans. In troops, we have what's called the SCOCs, the School and Community Outreach Officers. I certainly will encourage you to reach out to them, but I will do the reverse. I will have them reach out to the schools just to ensure that you have the information and comfort that you need. It is good to see a bunch of friendly faces here gathered around a common cause. And so with that regard, I certainly like now to introduce to you Senator Fahey. Good to see you.
Thank you. Governor, thank you for inviting me back. Thank you for inviting me last year when you launched this. It was one of those I didn't even need to walk into the round table before I said, I'm all in on this. I am all in. And I know I don't always do that before I've learned and dug into things, but I had already read major excerpts of The Anxious Generation, and it reminded me of my own children who were at the beginning of the smartphone technology, and I thought, oh, this is where things went wrong, or this is where the distractions began. This is where the challenges began. And it's quite laid out. It's quite detailed. And all I could think is, as you were talking earlier about the digital distraction, how many years did we talk about closing the digital divide? Well, we've more than closed it, and maybe we overcompensated. And then, as you mentioned, COVID sent everything off the rails. And then when we told students to stay home and stay on their devices, it just furthered the problem. So this is yet another casualty of COVID. And I so appreciate your leadership on this, Governor, in saying we're going to change it. We're going to change it now. And I think it's wonderful that the teachers are here with you and that Melinda and so many more have been with you every step of the way, as well as law enforcement. You've got the support of the police, our county sheriffs all over, and that says something because they know a little bit about this as well. I think it's incredible that we come together and do this really what is a course correction and can make a difference. So, well, this is the budget season. This is really not about funding. This is something where you're showing national leadership, and this will have a national ripple effect when New York does this, and we're already seeing extraordinary success here in Guilderland. Thank you, Guilderland, for always being out front. But this is another one. It's not about the money. And I appreciate that you're going to help with some of the smaller expenses on this. But this is about a policy change and not leaving this to the classroom. This is something we need, that statewide policy. We need that statewide direction because parents are apprehensive. Who isn't a parent of a school-age child that isn't apprehensive with the violence and more kind of fueling the mental health challenges? So we also know from the research, which is rather profound, behavioral changes, it takes a few weeks for behavioral changes. So within a few weeks, I really think we will see different schools. We'll have more students talking to each other. And I so look forward to this. And really not a moment to waste as far as I'm concerned. So with that, I just want to say happy to join you every step of the way on this. And it cannot commend you enough for your leadership. And I hope the rest of the country, if not the world, is watching on this. And with that, to hear more, I'm so pleased to be joined by Anthony Herman, the president of the New York City NAACP and a retired teacher. Thank you.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, and our New York State Conference President, Hazel Dukes, we come today to say thank you, Governor Hochul. Thank you, Governor Hochul, for taking and showing bold leadership, and in the words of John Lewis, showing raw courage as we tackle this issue of cell phones in our public school system. You're showing your commitment to creating an environment in our schools that is more conducive to learning and that puts New York's children first and position them to succeed academically. As a former classroom teacher who was there on 9/11, I can tell you the chaos that happened in our public school system. And I would tell you that the cell phones did not add one bit of comfort. If anything, it created more of a distraction. Governor Hochul, and thank you, and I want to echo what you said, because a great concern to the NAACP is that once this policy is implemented, is that it's consistent throughout the state of New York, that the kid in Farmingdale is treated no different than a kid in the Finger Lakes area, or the kid in Brooklyn is treated no different than a kid in Buffalo. Thank you, and it's something that we look forward to working with you on. We firmly believe that we can do this without adding additional barriers to the academic pursuit for students, and that create these punitive measures. We don't want kids out of classrooms for this issue. We want kids in classrooms, and we want our teachers teaching. Let our teachers teach. We're not expecting our teachers to police this issue, but we want to be partners. The New York State Conference has over 50 branches throughout the state of New York, and each of us are eagerly awaiting to work with our public school systems to tackle this issue of creating these distraction-free areas. And I want to thank you for allowing us to share our concerns and our views as it relates to cell phones in our public schools. Thank you, Governor.
Ground. We'll now do a quick photo line at the front of the room. So, members of the speaking program and elected officials, please report to the front of the room.